it true that capitalism corrupts Christianity and that Christianity is inherently socialist? These are some of the things that have been said in one of Tucker Carlson's latest podcast episodes by one of his guests, with which Tucker Carlson apparently agrees with. And this has caused an awful lot of consternation in Christian circles. And this clip that we're going to play for you on this evening's live stream of Irrespective has gone viral on social media because of it. There are those whom are using the clip to prove that Carlson is, in fact, a socialist whom is masquerading as a Christian to get people to buy into socialism. Others are saying there's more nuance that needs to be discussed with respect to the thing. We'd like to tackle the assertion head on. As we've said before, we don't pretend to speak for Tucker Carlson. We're not going to speak for him. Tucker has his own platform. He can speak for himself. What we speak for is for ourselves, and we are going to give you our commentary on what we think the assertion is. Is it true? Is it false? What does it say for Christianity? Is Christianity essentially socialist, or isn't it? That is what we are going to talk about on this evening's live stream of Irrespective, and we welcome all of you who have joined us, and those of you that will join us, welcome. My name is Gio. This is my co-host, and I am his Jesus.
Good evening, friends. At some point tonight, you will hear either in our presentation or in the video clips that we will be showing you something about faith, religion, and corruption. And I want to make it very clear, just in case those that are out there, and we know they're out there, twist and just whatever you say, Gio, they make sure to twist it into shapes that before they twist them into these shapes, they were unbeknownst to mankind. That we are not celebrating, upholding, advocating for corruption in giving, corruption in church finances. We are against that. We have denounced it throughout the years. But again, some people will listen to certain commentaries, at least some that I'm going to make, and will say, I can't believe these two are defending financial corruption in ministry. This is not what we're doing. We're actually tackling a very important issue. As you were here, one person here basically say that Christianity is akin to socialism. And this is the main point that we will be tackling. But within that, you will hear, because this is the launching pad for these two individuals. We'll be focusing in on one of them, investigating the church and the church as a business, etc. So just want to leave that very clear. We are not advocating on behalf of financial corruption within the church. We know it's there. We know that it's happening. And I'll go ahead and say this right off the bat. You can make any and all kinds of people responsible for the corruption that, come on, we all see it within the church. But at the end of the day, every person is responsible for their giving. And when you start asking institutions and even governments to come in and do what you have to do, which is make sure you give responsibly, and that means checking out the ministry that you donate to. Once we start others asking to come in and manage our affairs, we are inviting a lot of trouble to come into the body of Christ.
Well said. Housekeeping items as usual at the beginning of these editions. If you have not yet subscribed, please do so. Hit the notification bell to be alerted as to when we go live. Also, make sure to smash that thumbs up button. It helps us. It really does, to help us share our content. One way you can do that is by smashing that thumbs up button. Don't forget to interact with us on the chat wherever you're watching this, X, YouTube, or Rumble. Do not forget to donate. It helps us to continue to publish this content for your edification. There's a QR code in the upper left-hand corner of the screen that you can scan. Conversely, there is a link available for you in the description box underneath video player. And last but not least, follow us on the socials. At Irrespective is our username, or rather at the Irrespective at TikTok, and Irrespective 77.
Got 5 today. Did I miss one?
I think you might have missed one. It's usually 6.
Apologies. I should have been paying attention in math.
At Irrespective 77 on X. Well, let's play the clip first. Usually I like to give some context for these things, but I'll provide that after. I think it's important that we showcase the clip first, then we'll contextualize it, and then we'll proceed to comment. This is from Tucker Carlson's latest episode. You can find this on Rumble, on YouTube, and all the other places where they publish his episodes. But he's talking to a Nathan Apfel, whom is a documentarian, and his specialty seems to talk about what he denominates the religion business, more specifically financial corruption in the name of Christianity. This is the back and forth, and this is the portion that we've selected, and this is the clip that has gone viral.
Yeah, I mean, especially since Jesus is pretty tough on the rich and on money. And it's a challenge to any of us, who have excess money. It's like, what is he saying?
Well, money is the root of all evil, right?
Well, that's what it's, the love of money, yes.
The love
of money is
not the money.
Right, that's what Paul said, and Jesus says, famously, it's harder for a rich man to get to heaven than a camel through the eye of a needle. So, yeah, the idea that, like, you follow God and get rich is like a perfect inversion of what he's saying.
That's capitalism creeping into the church. And I would actually argue, and this is a bold statement, a democratic republic is the greatest government experiment in the history of humanity. I would say
I've enjoyed it. Yeah.
You've enjoyed it? Yeah, so we enjoy it. I love America. You love America.
I do.
Capitalism should not be anywhere near Christianity.
You think?
Christianity is more, and I don't like the word socialist with the weight it carries, but Christianity is socialism at its core.
Non-authoritarian.
It's the marker to build social capital. You look at that early Church of Acts, and it transformed Rome within a couple hundred years, the greatest superpower of its time, to where Constantine was like, I'm a Christian hanging out with these dudes. They had no money, they had no buildings, but somehow the love of their neighbor transformed the greatest superpower of its time. That's dangerous. And today,
it needs to be constrained, right?
Today, it's just, we've let capitalism and Carl Trueman, he's a Reformation thought expert, brilliant guy from England. He calls it the rugged American individualistic experience. And he goes, that has detrimental effects on Christianity.
Well, how about greed? I mean, it just looks like greed to me, but...
Couple of things to contextualize the clip. That way people don't accuse us who have seen the episode of misunderstanding or intentionally misrepresenting what both we're talking about here. First and foremost, I would have to argue against those people that one has to be very selective with their words. And if you're going to be a teacher of men, if you're going to present ideas, that at least you would undertake the responsibility to be accurate with what your thoughts are. That's the first point. The second point is, we're only going to comment on what Apfel and Tucker themselves are saying. They're responsible for their words. We can't be held responsible if they're allowing a misinterpretation because they didn't articulate themselves properly. We're going based off of what they're saying, and that's what we're going off of. Don't get on our case. Don't criticize us, because we're simply taking their words at face value. That's number two. Number three, in the interest of making sure that we are being proper stewards, as it were. What do we mean by stewards? Stewards of information. One of the things that it is important to note here is that this episode, as I've stated recently on Telegram, was a mishmash of different topics. You and I saw the episode. I think the best way to describe this is a mishmash of topics masquerading as Christianity or criticism from a Christian principle against Trump's decisions to bomb Iran, issues that are happening within church circles of greed and all these other things. It was a mishmash of different topics all into one. It was really, one would have to say, not necessarily a neatly articulated episode. It just spanned the gamut of quite a few things.
It was a thinly veiled criticism of the president.
Right.
Taking the opportunity that Passover, Easter just happened to go by, and there is the opportunity to point out a few things that the president has done, others that he has not done, and bash the president. That's Tucker's issue with the president. My issue is saying basically, I thought I heard what I heard. Perhaps you can play it again if you want to, Gio, that Christianity and socialism are one and the same.
Right.
Very much alike. One is good for the other, etc. That's what I thought I heard.
Right.
And that is my beef with that statement.
Allow me to give some foundation here for our context or our criticisms, our comments going forward, because I think it's important to note that Tucker and Nathan are sitting there pretending to represent the more accurate position of Christianity and Christian ethics. This begins with Tucker Carlson's monologue, about 40 minutes, where he criticizes President Trump for a message that he posted on Truth Social about the threats that he had over Iranian civilization and things of this nature, things that I have commented on before in a separate outlet. Where, for example, I stated that Tucker gets it wrong in many instances, and it's an episode that needs to be seen by Christians with an awful lot of discernment. Why? Among the highlights of the errors that Tucker presents, again, please remember, Tucker here is posturing as a Christian whom is indignant over certain things. So we, being Christians ourselves, are observing Tucker and Nathan's comments, and we have our own criticisms of their criticisms because they are not they're not necessarily fair. For example, you have Tucker at the beginning of the episode where he criticizes Trump for using the phrase "praise be to Allah." He's using it in a mocking sense. He's using it in a sarcastic sense because Iran, the nation that he has launched an attack against, is an Islamic nation. And Tucker goes on to berate the president for saying that Christians should not in any way, shape, or form mock other religions because it demeans Christianity proper. And I'm thinking, God mocked paganism and false religions and idolatry in the Old Testament. We find similar mockery from Jesus and Paul against
Elijah had a blast,
right,
mocking the false gods, the idols.
Right. But then again, you have to understand that that's Tucker's pluralism, religious pluralism, making an appearance and not Christianity proper, although he tries to present it as Christianity. Please follow my logic here, because this is going to play an important role in what we will mention next.
And it's very sad that knowing or thinking that they were going to make the comments that they made, that both of them, before coming on in front of the cameras, did not divest themselves of all the excess money
right
that would have lent a lot of credence
a lot of credibility
to their criticism.
Which, by the way, I wonder, do both of these guys use the exemptions available to them via the tax code so that they don't have to pay the maximum
we can
tax?
only wonder, but we would think in wondering that they probably
They
do.
probably do, right? That's going to play prominently in our comments going forward. Another point, Tucker actually says, go back to the monologue. I heard it twice just to confirm it, that where Trump puts out on his Truth Social post something along the lines of, you're going to be living in hell. And Tucker says, as if hell were a place and not a condition. That's the Episcopalian in him coming forth, wherein Tucker, via that statement, directly contradicts Christ himself. This from a guy who says that he is a staunch follower of Jesus's commandments, his life, his ministry. Why would he subvert what Jesus himself has to say about hell being a literal place? Just to give you an example, why do I mention these two incidents at the beginning of the episode? Because then Nathan Apfel comes in, and both of them start talking about Christian principles and how supposedly capitalism, how the free market has a tendency to corrupt Christian principles. You just heard the clip. Apfel tries to qualify him so that they won't accuse him of being a socialist, but nevertheless, he classifies Christianity as, in a sense, socialist in nature, and that the free market and socialism cannot mix, and that, if anything, capitalism, the free market, is the great corrupter, as it were, of Christianity. A lot to unpack there.
Christianity is malleable.
A lot to unpack there.
Because if there's something out there that can corrupt true Christianity or a true Christian, then what we have going inside us is not as powerful as we have been taught by the Bible itself that it is. Because let's face it, the Bible teaches us that the Holy Spirit, the Word of God abiding in us, is more than enough, more than powerful to keep us from any of and all these things that would corrupt us. Now, if you have a heart that is not redeemed, if you have a mind that has not been renewed, you most certainly are exposing yourself to temptation and falling into things that are offensive to God. You can expose yourself to corruption, but you need to state yourself or your ideas carefully. Otherwise, I'll go back to what I said previously. This guy I guess Nathan Apfel said that Christianity and socialism are one and the same. And all you have to do to prove that that is wrong is go to the places where socialism, where communism has been installed. Who gets the brunt of it? Who gets persecuted?
Yeah.
The Christians. So is he also saying that Christians set up the perfect socialism, or we haven't had the opportunity to set up the perfect socialism, and once we do, it'll all be perfect? Apparently, this guy, which you, I think, probably called a bohemian,
Did you
has,
see his
yes,
hair, for example?
apparently he has not been paying attention, because wherever it's been tried, no matter what version of socialism and or communism has been tried, it fails. And the people that get hurt the most, they get persecuted the most, are the Christians. So you can take what these guys are saying and try to say, no, this is what they're actually trying to say. This is not what they mean. I'm just taking them at their words.
Absolutely. A couple of things here to continue to give us more foundational material for what our criticisms have already begun to be and what we'll continue to say forthwith is as follows. Please understand that when he says, Nathan Apfel, when he says that capitalism corrupts the socialistic tendencies of Christianity, he gets it wrong on counts. Allow me to give the audience some historical backdrop so that the terms will not get lost here, and now we're speaking in different wavelengths. Please understand that capitalism, the term that even a lot of conservatives would use to describe the free market favorably, it's not a term that was popularized or made famous by the guy that economists say wrote the book on the free market. We're talking about Adam Smith, and the Book of Wealth of Nations. Interestingly enough, I need to provide this information to the audience. Adam Smith was a Presbyterian Christian. And this Presbyterian Christian wrote the book on free market economics. According to our search here, he was born and raised in Scotland, where the Church of Scotland, a Presbyterian church, was the established national church. His father was the comptroller of the customs at Kirkcaldy and a strong Presbyterian. Smith's religious background is evident in several ways. His education, he attended the University of Glasgow, which had a strong Presbyterian foundation, and later Balliol College, Oxford. His personal connections, many of his close friends and intellectual associates were prominent figures in the Scottish Presbyterian Church, including ministers and theologians. His writings, while The Wealth of Nations is a secular work on economics, his other major work, The Theory of Moral Sentiments, explores the philosophical and religious underpinnings of morality. He often uses religious language and concepts such as the invisible hand, which some interpret as having a divine, though not explicitly stated, connotation, and the great architect of the universe. That phrase is a bit problematic, but that for another edition. The reason I bring this up is because here is a Christian man writing a book on the free market. And the free market has traditionally been seen by Western Christians and by others alike as being a moral good, because it provides the maximum amount of opportunity for people to actually improve their lot in life and not do like they still do in India, where you have a case system and, well, you're born in that bottom case and there's nothing that you can do to get out of it. One of the best things that can happen in a person's existence is that they lift themselves up out of poverty. That is a blessing. But according to Apfel, that system that has provided so much good and done so much good for so many people somehow corrupts Christianity, which he calls socialist in nature. That's the next thing I'm going to examine. Is it true that Christianity is somehow socialist in nature?
Well, he also talks somewhere in his presentation, in his argument, the fact that we need oversight. And he kind of hints at the government being the entity that should have oversight over the church, over the affairs of the church, the religious people, the religious entities. And my question to him is, I guess this is the second one. The first one was, has he been paying attention to what socialism does to Christians and Christianity? He's actually asking for corrupt government to have oversight or an examination, constant examination of the Church of Christ, when the Bible teaches us that we should be able to judge all these things by ourselves, because at the end of the day, we will be judging fallen angels.
That's the Apostle Paul.
And the world.
Great point.
So when he brings up the fact that we need overseers, and he suggests people that are very extra corrupt in their nature.
You mean the people that covered up Epstein's crimes? They're going to be overseeing what happens in churches?
Here's the third question for Mr. Abfel. Have you forgotten Lois Lerner and the IRS and how they targeted churches? And so I think, I don't know his intentions, but I believe he is misguided. And he's actually, along with Tucker, giving this presentation, and you perceive them, at least I do, the air of, look where we stand.
Right.
Look how high we stand in our morality and in our wanting the church to be all that it should be. And it's not, because we have corrupt people in the pulpit and we need to fix it. Financial corruption within ministries, mega churches or the smallest of the churches, will come to an abrupt end if people become responsible in their giving.
Right.
Check out what the ministry is doing. Make sure that you verify that this is a legit ministry, and then put your money there. Not like one sister told me, and this is to showcase how irresponsible people can be with their giving. She said, I give my money, and after that, I don't care what the ministries do with it, because I gave it to God, and that is that. That's just not the way
That's
it
not the way it
works.
is.
You have to give responsibly and make sure that you're being fed, that the work of the gospel is being done. And once you can verify that, then you should be able to give freely and with joy.
So much for proper stewardship, because stewardship not only extends to scrutinizing who you're giving money to, what they're going to use it for, but that you keep an eye on that it's being used to those ends.
Only gullible people keep charlatans doing what they do.
Well said.
So don't be gullible.
Well, to your point, at around the hour and 5 minute mark of this presentation, Tucker and Apfel essentially agree with each other, stating that, because this is Apfel's presentation, that the not-for-profit status that was offered from 1913 and on to religious organizations and other, including the Salvation Army, as he gives an example in the episode, eventually it became the point of corruption for churches and church organizations and others. And I have a bone to pick with that for various reasons, and I'll get into that shortly. But here's the interesting thing about this. So you're telling me that a policy somehow can corrupt the person. This is from a person whom affirms to be a Christian, where if you're a true Christian, you say, wait a minute, corruption is in the heart of man. And the gospel, if one allows it, allows one to, as you said before, if you stated before, to regenerate and through the renewing of the mind to kill, as it were, that tendency. No. According to him, it seems as if policy somehow, and this is to your point earlier, policy somehow has the ability to corrupt. So let me see if I understood. Government institutes the corruption that the churches are now leveraging, but now his solution to that corruption is government again, to point out the blatant contradiction that he is peddling on this episode based on what you were talking about earlier.
Well, Tucker mentioned something that I happen to agree with, and he brought in the topic of greed, but he presents it as ministers being greedy people. I'm talking about these ministers that are
every
corrupt.
single minister is greedy. Because that's in essence what they said at that point. You and I heard the episode. It's almost as if they both agreed. Well, in essence, I guess there is no single church that is left.
We know
that is
that's
innocent.
not true.
Right.
There are a lot of honest people in ministry.
Right.
But this is the part that I agree with, and I don't even know that he is aware of what he said, because he used the word greed. And to your point, I think he's talking about greedy ministers. What about the greedy ministers, Gio, that are saying, if you give $1, God will give you 100 in return? What about the greed of those givers?
Right.
They're not really giving out of a sense of being thankful,
Right.
being appreciative of what God has done for them,
Or
and
wanting to help.
and wanting the gospel to go forward, or
Right.
helping others. They're giving because they want their $100. They want their Benji in exchange for $1. So these people deserve each other.
Right.
And these two are out here saying, look, we've got the high moral ground, when there are hundreds and thousands of churches operating cleanly, efficiently, how God would have them operate, and they get no credit. The focus is on the people that are working in corruption, and all of a sudden, if you do something about them, like they suggest, bringing in oversight via corrupt people and agencies, you damage those that are doing things correctly. Because Mr. Abfeld talks about traveling to this country and that country. I've been to most of Latin America, and most of the ministries that I've been to, and I've been to a lot of them, are wishing, boy, if we could just have a little more of what you guys have in the States. Because
Resources.
we basically have zero resources.
Right.
And I guess he's saying that if we get the oversight from corrupt people and corrupt governments, we might be able to hit that. We won't. We will end up like the people in the countries that he has visited, because the oversight will make sure that we cannot move out of the boxes that they set us into.
I'm not laughing at what you're saying. It's just as you're saying this, a thought comes into my head. He wants the people who mismanage our tax money to manage churches. It's just absolutely and patently ridiculous. Let me answer the question. Let us answer the question real quickly as to Apfel's assertion that Christianity is essentially, he says he doesn't like to use the term socialist. Look, let's be honest. He doesn't like to use the term socialist because he doesn't want to be branded a socialist, but essentially that is what he is exalting, and that is what he's portraying Christianity as. But let me ask everyone a question, because Tucker and they talk about the incident or the narrative of the rich young ruler, where Jesus tells this rich young ruler, there's a narrative in Matthew, there's a narrative in Luke about it, where he says, take everything that you have, all of your possessions, give it to the poor and follow me. The rich young ruler left sad because he had many possessions. And then the disciples, especially Peter, going this back and forth with Jesus. If he can't get in, then who can't get in? We want to get into all that now. That's the example that they use. And this is where Tucker says, this is why those of us that have excess money, which, by the way, a small side note, who's to decide what excess money is or isn't? Isn't that a very subjective thing? Because, for example, in the time of Abraham, the currency was what? Animals, land, for example. In our day and age, yes, it's all those things, but a lot of it has to do with what you have in your bank account.
And does excess include what you put away for your kids? Because what did Paul say?
You have to store up for generations.
There you go.
Exactly. It's well said. But let me ask you a question. Was Paul being greedy? Was Paul being a corrupt man when he writes to the Corinthians? First letter to the Corinthians, chapter 9, or does verse 10, or does it say it altogether for our sakes? For our sakes, no doubt this is written, that he who plows should plow in hope, and he who threshes in hope should be a partaker of this hope. If we have sown spiritual things for you, is it a great thing if we reap your material things?
So Paul places the highest value on spiritual things and the lower value on material things.
If others are partakers of this right over you, are we not even more? Huh.
But they would say he was doing it in a measured way, whereas, and he mentions a few ministries there, they're just in your face, blunt about taking your money. Again, if he can see that they're taking people's money, the people should be able to see that. Well, they're being duped. Then why don't you come up with more ministry work telling people this is how they're duping you? And if after that, the greed that is blinding them continues to blind them, there's nothing you can do about it. You leave them alone and you move on to another group that perhaps you can help.
We ask the audience if Christianity is truly a socialist experiment like Apfel and Tucker are affirming. Why is it that Jesus and his disciples were carrying around a money box? Some of you might be asking, a money box? We direct your attention to John chapters 12 and 13. There are two mentions of money box there. John 12:6. This he said, not that he cared for the poor, this is Judas Iscariot, but because he was a thief and had the money box, and he used to take what was put in it.
Shall we accuse Jesus of corruption because he let him have the treasury?
One has to ask the question, to your point, why was Jesus hanging around with a money box? Because you mentioned it earlier. In order for things to get done, you need resources. Might I remind the audience, if you have not read this, if this is the first time that you are coming into contact with this, well, you better find out very quickly that Jesus had a lot of wealthy people that gave to his ministry, especially women.
Especially women.
Especially women. For example, we have Luke 8, 1 through 3, that it states, soon afterward, he went on through the cities and villages, proclaiming and bringing the good news of the kingdom of God. And the 12 were with him, and also some women who had been healed of evil spirits and infirmities. Mary called Magdalene, from whom 7 demons had gone out, and Joanna, the wife of Chuza, Herod's household manager. We're talking about someone that is very high ranking in government
Mary
at that
will never
point.
be able to live down that 7 demon situation. I'm sorry, I'm just thinking out loud.
No, and the popes don't let her go, conflating her with the woman caught in the act of adultery, right? And Susanna and many others who provided them out of their means. It's very interesting. For example, when you have this Joanna woman who was married to a high-ranking official in Herod's court, we're talking about a person that was very wealthy. Luke 24:10, after Jesus' resurrection, it mentions Mary Magdalene and Joanna, and Mary, the mother of James, and the other women were with them who were the first to discover the empty tomb. These are likely the same women who have been supporting Jesus' ministry. At the beginning of John 12, one of the texts that we just quoted, this is where Judas Iscariot plays that holier than thou part. But we could be using that money and giving it to the poor, when in reality, he was trying to pocket it.
Tucker would have probably invited him.
People would have probably invited him on the podcast, right? Do you know the person that was anointing Jesus at that narrative with expensive perfume was none other than Mary of Bethany? And it says there in the passage that that perfume was worth 300 denarii. We don't know what that means in our day and age.
Now we have to bring in the IRS, or back then the Sanhedrin, to analyze what's going on here.
How much of that is worth? How much of that can we tax? You know what 300 denarii meant in that day and age in Roman times? That's a year's salary worth. I don't see Jesus.
That's not Paco Rabanne.
No, it's not. I don't see Jesus telling these people to, in essence, take everything that they have and begin to distribute it to have everything in common. Folks,
Did Jesus have oversight over him? Because apparently he wasn't doing that good of a job giving the money over to Judas. I mean, he made him the treasurer. Okay, boys, let's get together. Let's get a board together. The Sanhedrin is asking us to file our papers, and we need a board. We shall make Judas
the executor of the...
he will deal with the money. You are the treasurer. This is, and I'm saying this with a lot of sarcasm. Are we to blame Jesus because he intentionally chose Judas and gave him the treasury?
Judas could have chosen not to steal. He chose to steal. That's on him. It's that simple. One last thing, folks. One of the
But
things...
you started to say something, Gio, and I am sorry to interrupt you because I do this quite often. It's my job to interrupt Gio. You were talking about Peter and all these cats, Sammy Davis could say, that
Cool
supposedly
cat,
left everything.
Mhm.
And there's nothing in the Bible that can prove that they left absolutely everything. They left their jobs.
Well, they left their
professions,
occupations.
their
Like
occupations.
Matthew, he left his occupation. Peter, he left his occupation of being a fisherman. But it doesn't mean that Peter abandoned his wife. You can read this in the book of Acts. He did not abandon his family.
What would happen under the law and under just good morality if you abandon your family to the point that you bring nothing home and they go without because now you're following Jesus?
Paul says that you're worse than an infidel. You see, this is the problem with these people when they take certain things, they stretch them beyond recognition and then turn it into something that it isn't. This is why we take issue with people like Tucker, people like Nathan Apfel and others whom pretend as if we have the cutting edge understanding of what Christianity should be, and what they're actually presenting is a very, very flawed image of Christianity. One last point I'd like to bring with respect to this whole issue of Apfel's solution, as he calls it, to bring oversight to the money expenditures and the money gathering of church organizations and whatnot. I find it highly interesting that he is asking for government who hasn't ever seen a thing that it doesn't like to tax 2 or 3 times over to come in and suddenly have so-called oversight over church expenditures. Folks, when you think about it, the money that people are giving in donations to churches, charitable giving, et cetera, is already money that has been taxed. In some instances, it's been taxed twice over. So the fact that he is now attacking one of the very few exemptions that is given, as it were, to charitable organizations, religious organizations, and others so that they can evade the tax man's grips on money that has already been taxed. And he is actually advocating for government to come in essence, say, yeah, sure, let's go ahead and tax it again, as if that were some sort of oversight, is not only just downright ludicrous. You're actually allowing the fox into the hen house. Some of you are asking at this point, then what do we do then with all of the corrupt people that you yourselves have profiled? I thought you had just talked about this less than 10 minutes ago.
I began to give the answer right when we started.
Exactly.
And I repeated the answer, and I will say it again if you want me to give responsibly. How about if I don't know how to do that, then learn how to do that and leave the other people do with their money as they wish. If they want to give their money to the most corrupt preacher out there, okay, we will continue to say there are corrupt preachers out there. There are ministries out there that are taking your money. But if you want to give them your money, that's up to you. It's your money. These people don't want you to do with your money what you would do with your money.
That's correct.
And when Peter chastised...
Because Nathan, he knows how to spend your money better than you do. Remember.
Absolutely. And he's got a great idea for oversight, which is get corruption and corrupted people to be the oversight committee over the church's affair. I mean, this is just like ridiculous. But you noted, and I happen to agree with you, they are perched. Look at us. Look what we have discovered, and look what we are pointing out. Well, it would have been great if Tucker and Mr. Apfel would have said, we have divested ourselves of all excess and even beyond excess monies, and now we can talk about this. They didn't do that.
You know that this makes for a great joke. As you're saying that, you know what comes to my mind? An Episcopalian and a Bohemian met in a bar. There you have it, folks. You can't believe everything that you hear. We've said it throughout the years, and we will continue to say it. Even what we're telling you, investigate it. Don't take it because we've said it. Don't take it because Tucker says it. Don't take it because Nathan Apfel says it. You have to make sure that you exercise your discernment in all of these things. Look at the evidence we've given you this evening to provide to substantiate what we are saying here. You have to do the investigation. You can't continue to do what, unfortunately, millions of people have a tendency to do. That's the personality that said so. It must be true. This is the person that says so. It must be true. Stop going behind, believing the facade. That's what they want to get you to believe. Presenting all of this, having conversations with my daughter today about all of this, she made a great point. She's listening to the podcast episode back, and we're just talking back and forth and about this. And she says, if Tucker really believes what he says about him and his excess money, why doesn't he just say to all his sponsors, I don't want your money anymore? An awful lot of sanctimony going on around here, if you get my drift.
And why are his sponsors sponsoring him?
Correct.
It depends on what you want to call corruption. Some people want to take normal business and say, boy, I see corruption there. And you and I are just seeing normal business.
Yeah.
So you have to be very careful the way people present things, because at the end, you cannot take what is your responsibility and say somebody else, be vigilant, somebody else pay attention because maybe I'm being duped. If you're being duped, you are responsible for not being duped, and you are responsible still to this day to honor God with the sweat of your eyebrows and do it in a way that you know that it's going into the work of the ministry. Only you can prevent forest fires, said Smoking the Bear, and only you can stop corruption in ministry. What do you mean I can stop it completely? You can stop it in your life, and perhaps you can help others.
An Episcopalian, a Bohemian, and a fictional park ranger bear enter into a bar.
Hey, boo-boo. Let's talk to the ranger.
Ready for the countdown? Here we go.
I'm not your average bear.
We got to do the countdown. We got to do some housekeeping. Here we go.
Here we go.
Remember to subscribe if you haven't done so. Hit the notification bell, click on that thumbs up button, and share our content with others.
That is uno.
Do not forget to donate. There's a QR code in the upper left-hand corner of the screen that you can scan. Conversely, there is a link that you can tap on or click underneath the video player.
That is segundo.
Follow us on the socials. The first one would be on X at Irrespective77.
Number tres.
You can follow us also on TikTok at The Irrespective is the username.
Cuatro.
And last but not least, our next live stream is on Sunday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
That would be cinco.
Number cinco.
You're missing the 6.
I'm leaving it for the next edition.
Okay.
For Jesus has been
If you
Gio.
do the 6 3 times, it's 666, and you might have yourself a diabolical program.
That would be
Some
diabolical.
religious people would say.
That's all.
Stay away from that 6 number. That's the mark of the beast. If you take it to the 3rd power, you repeat it 3 times. Don't say that.
Don't say that. That's all the time we have left for this edition. Until the next occasion that we gather. Adieu to each and every one of you, and Godspeed.